Hey guys, it's Amy here, and today I'm bringing my January wrap-up. In January I managed to read 6 books, so let's discuss them. The first book I read this month was Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom. I didn't realise, before I started reading this book, that it was actually non-fiction. For some reason I thought this was a fictional book, so I started reading it and then I got really confused. I had to Google it and then realised that it's actually non-fiction. At the beginning of this book, Mitch discovers that his old university professor, whom he was extremely close to, called Morrie, is dying of a motor neuron disease, the same one that Stephen Hawking has. Unfortunately, Morrie's life expectancy, now that he has been diagnosed, is something like 6 months. He doesn't have long to live. This leads to Mitch actually visiting Morrie every Tuesday, hence the title of the book, and they discuss everything really, all to do with family, love, friendship, life, death is the ultimate thing that they discuss, because obviously Morrie has kind of come to his own realisation that he will die. Not only is Mitch finding help in these discussions that he has with Morrie every Tuesday, Morrie is actually giving kind of speeches and profound kind of interviews and things on TV, and you can actually watch all these interviews and things on YouTube. This book, a 4 out of 5 stars. I don't think I would read it again in the future, but I definitely would suggest it to other people. I think this is definitely one to pick up when you're in the right mood for this kind of thing, because I did feel a little bit down after reading it, but I think it would be good if you maybe were experiencing grief to pick up something like this. The next book I have here is actually one of my favourites from the month, and it is my dedicated non-fiction book for the month. If you watched my resolution video, you'll know that I want to read 12 non-fiction books over the course of 2016. I put up my TBR video as well. I'll put that all down below if you want to go and watch those. So this one is the one that I had for January, and it is Hyperbole and a Half, Unfortunate Situations, Flawed Coping Mechanism, Mayhem and Other Things That Happened by Allie, Brosh. This book was so good. I enjoyed it so much. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, put it in my favourites for the year. It is simply Allie Brosh telling all these really funny stories and putting these hilarious illustrations with them. As I was reading the book, I was thinking, oh, if I was just reading this kind of funny story, I think I would find it funny, but I wouldn't actually laugh out loud. But the addition of the illustrations that Allie Brosh has done herself made it absolutely hilarious. I was properly laughing out loud, which I don't often do when reading books, and I think that is purely down to the combination of the funny story and the hilarious illustration. I would highly recommend this book to everyone. If you're looking for a laugh, this is definitely where you need to go. The next book I read this month was another one from Mitch Albom, and it is The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. This book is a fictional book, and it follows the story of an old man who dies at the beginning of the book, ends up going to heaven, and he meets 5 different people, all who are connected to his life in some way. Some of these people he knows, some of them he kind of knows why they're there and why he's speaking to them. Other people he has no idea who they are until they start explaining the story and how they're connected to his life and the effect that different things that he had done connected to their life and different things like that. I thought this book was beautifully written. I really liked the premise of the story and the idea of the kind of flow of events and the way that these 5 people connected to his life. It was a very quick read and I would recommend to all. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next book I have here I gave 5 out of 5 stars to, and I added to my favourites for the month, and it is A Storm of Swords, the second part, Blood and Gold by George R. R. Martin. This, by far, is my favourite book of the Song of Ice and Fire series that I've read so far. It was so good. All of the characters, all of my favourite people were just doing really cool things. The whole book, I was just sat there like, yes, I'm really, really loving this. I think this book corresponds to maybe the 3rd series of the TV show. I have seen all of the TV show, so I knew what was going to happen, but I think all the characters were just doing awesome things, and I really, really loved it. I won't go into detail and say what kind of happened, because otherwise it will just spoil it for all of you if you haven't seen it. I would highly recommend, if you haven't read or seen or done anything to do with the Song of Ice and Fire series, you should definitely pick them up so you can get to this one, because it was fantastic. The next book I read this month was Room by Donoghue. This is a film, I think. I don't know if it's come out in England yet. I can't find it in any cinema near me, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to see it before it leaves cinemas. This is a very heart-wrenching story. It follows the story of a young woman who gets kidnapped when she's 19, and she is held captive for 7 years inside a kind of concrete structure, shed kind of thing in this man's garden. The story is actually told through the perspective of her 5-year-old son. The biological father of the son is the man who is keeping her hostage. He believes that the room they're in is everything. Like, he thinks that that is the world. He doesn't believe that there is anything other than the room that they live in. He thinks everything outside the room is just outer space. Slowly his mother divulges information to him about the world, and actually there is more out there than what he thinks there is, and they try and hatch a plan to escape, and whether they do or not, I will leave it to you if you want to go and read it. As I said before, it was extremely heart-wrenching. The innocence of this young boy, of not knowing what was going on and the horrific things that this man was doing to the woman whilst he was just hiding in a wardrobe. It was just awful. It made me shudder, and it made me quite anxious as well. Like, I was reading it thinking, God, like, this kind of stuff happens, and this does kind of happen to people, and it made me kind of scared that it could happen. Like, it's just not good. So I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars, and I would highly recommend, but I would say if you are sensitive to themes like this, that maybe, you know, be a bit wary before picking it up, read some reviews and see if this is something that you would enjoy. Okay, so the final book that I read in January was a classic for the month, and as with the non-fiction books that I want to read 12 classics throughout the course of 2016, the book that I chose this month was The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins last year and really enjoyed it. This one was brilliant. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. There were some parts that kind of dragged it a little bit. It was 700 pages long, probably the longest classic I have actually read. This book is told through many different perspectives. We start from the perspective of a man named Walter Hartwright, and he encounters a woman completely dressed in white walking around the streets of London. She seems very distressed and kind of confused and not really sure where she's going. He manages to get her safely away to where she's going. He then overhears the conversation of 2 gentlemen speaking to a policeman, saying that they're looking for a woman completely dressed in white, and she has actually escaped from an insane asylum. So Walter Hartwright, not really sure where the woman went, leaves it, and months down the line, when he is settled somewhere else in the country, he comes across this woman in white again. And the whole story is told through various different perspectives of people who are affected by this woman in white and the things that she has done in her life, and various different things like why she was put in an insane asylum to begin with, and actually was she meant to be there. It's a really enjoyable book. I really love Wilkie Collins' style of telling the story through loads of different people's perspectives and kind of following the story through different people. It was just really enjoyable. Really glad that I loved this one as much as I did, because it set my year of classics off to a really good beginning. As I said, I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars, and I would highly recommend to anyone who is looking for a wonderful classic to read. There we are, those are all the books that I read in January. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books and what you thought, or what books you've been reading in January. As always, I will leave links to Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, everything I've mentioned today are down below. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and I will see you soon. Bye! Last book haul was before Christmas, so I've got quite a few books here to show you. Some I bought myself and some publishers have sent me, so let's get on with it.